Hello. Hello, I see Joanne, Carolyn, Stevie, Michael. How are you? Steve's probably out there. Um, I'm back in my natural habitat. Tahoe was amazing, wonderful place to be. So, for those of you that were with me last week, thank you. It's always interesting to teach somewhere else to hope that it works. And I usually think it's almost better, especially reception. So maybe I'll go away more often. All right. Any questions or anything that you guys would like to ask about? Today, I thought I would really like to focus on strengthening our ability to show up every day. And that quite often comes with the awareness of a stronger back and the awareness of where's your head. So really focusing today on trunk support to help hold you up against gravity. Sometimes I refer to this as our hanger. So I am going to go back there because I didn't see any questions, and I'd like to go back there and just say what I'd like to say. Um, yeah, so today, working on the parts of you that hold you upright. And I was just studying and putting together a program for bone health. And there's a new terminology that's actually, I believe, even at this point, considered a diagnosis that's being given to people. And it's called osteosarcopenia. And so we have bones, and as we age, our bones break down more than they build up or faster than they build up. And then we have muscles that degenerate as well. And what they're uncovering is this crosstalk, this communication. And we have to have our muscles communicate with our bones, and we have to have the bones communicate with the muscles. And so as we lose muscle tissue and as we lose bone tissue, once we leave our 30s, which happens to all of us, unless we intentionally every day do something to strengthen them. So as we start to lose these tissues, the density of muscles and bones after our 30s, the actual aspect of losing them and them becoming not as strong makes it even more that they will have an effect on each other. So it's not just that your bones lose density and your muscles stay at where they are. There's that relationship between the two of them. And so when we are living our lives, managing what we're managing, the pressures, the stresses of life, the years, the life situations, the weight of the world on our shoulders, we need to be strong to hold ourselves up to manage that. So today's practice, I'd like to focus on the parts of us that are strong, the parts of us that we need to keep strong physically and mentally and emotionally. So when we do work on our body, there's first of all a reason why you're here and why you're doing this, right? So there's that part of you that showed up to do this. And so there's that mental, emotional, or that knowing part of you that knows that, yeah, this is something I need. So that part of you is part of what we work on when we're practicing that self-care, self-love piece, even if you don't realize that that's what is happening, right? Susie Q might be over there on the sofa and she's given up, and her mental, emotional layer has given up or given in. But you're here and you're doing this. And every day that you do something, that part of you, that part of your mental, emotional layer, the mind, your intelligence, your personality, your drive to do more, to be more, that also gets worked on when you're in the physical aspects of the practice. So today's practice is going to be helping us be strong to manage the pressures, the stressors, whether that's gravity, aging, or life situations, which we all have. We're not immune to that. Okay, so let's get ourselves ready for that. Having a block, a strap, and a blanket will be important for today's practice. And if you don't have those, that's okay too. And then I'd like to begin in a way to kind of stretch our body, to open up the front of the body, and to take yesterday out of your body, and even before that, but especially yesterday or this morning or whatever time it is for you when you come to the practice. It's one of my favorite ways to use a prop to help open and prepare my body for movement, for strength. And so I'm going to take this blanket and roll it up into a really small ball or a tube. And you could use this. Some people use foam rollers that you get, a big foam roller. Some people use that, but I have to say that those that I work with that tell me that they rest on a foam roller every day to stretch their posture, their spine, I still find a lot of roundness in their upper back. So I'm not sure if the hardness of the foam roller allows your body to relax enough, to release enough, to let go of the tightness that could hold you into that hunchback shape. So doing a blanket like this is really fantastic because it'll be on your whole spine. So not on the tushy, but on the base of the spine. So the lumbar spine, the thoracic spine, and the cervical spine. And then the arms are out to the side. And with the arms out to the side, you determine your body what's appropriate, right? So I can come to this comfortably in this position, still feeling a pretty tremendous stretch. But for those with shoulder issues, you may be here, here, or here. So wherever you are when you come down on the ground, focus and pay attention. What's happening is we're stretching the front of our spine here. The thoracic spine, which is attached to your ribs, the cervical spine and your neck. You're stretching your pectoral or your chest muscles here and deltoids. And then rotator cuff muscles and deeper aspects of joint stability and the parts of you that the bones, the ligaments, where the bones are being held together by connective tissue. So get yourself ready in whatever is good for you. You're going to come all the way down onto the ground, onto your prop. Have your tushy be on the ground. Have the prop all the way behind your spine. Feel that support. Arrange yourself so that it is comfortable. I like to keep my knees bent. For me, that feels much better to have my knees bent when I'm in this position. For some of you, straight legs may be good. And so you are manipulating your spine. So choose what's appropriate for you. Close your eyes. Find your way into a deep and appropriate stretch for your body. Once you get yourself into where you're going to be, close your eyes. Wiggle your jaw side to side. Keep the mouth closed. Let the back teeth be separated. So relaxed mouth, relaxed jaw. And bring your awareness to your left arm. Let it be heavy and let it relax. Your right arm, heavy and relaxed. Begin to release any held tension. Let the heaviness of your rib cage yield to gravity and yield to this supine position. Follow the breath in your nostrils and be a witness to where the breath goes. If you're feeling a lot of tension in the head and neck area, let your head gently go side to side, starting to soften certain areas that you may feel tension. So we could really allow the spine to stretch, the shoulders, the chest. Bring your awareness to where you feel the most tension and breathe to that area. Imagining that as you breathe in, you're bringing in relaxation to release the muscle, to release the tension, wherever you're experiencing that. If you'd like to explore taking your legs straight, if your knees are bent, you could try that. Make sure the low back is okay with that. If you'd like to move your arms a little higher, a little wider, going into a deeper stretch, maybe now that you've had a little softening and a little opening in your body. Use breath with the mouth closed to help to warm up and to stretch your torso, the muscles in your torso, the spine, the muscles of respiration. So intentionally taking deep breaths to stretch, to create more space. Last few breaths, deep breaths, to create as much stretch with your breath as you can. If you're able to come in to a fully stretched position, reaching your hands above and pointing your toes away, so you feel a stretch, especially around the belly area. As the arms lift above, that draws the rib cage away from the pelvis, and you feel the belly muscles stretch, muscles that are attached to your spine, muscles that support, stabilize, mobilize, that help you hold the weight of the world on your shoulders. Take one more breath. And then bending your arms, bending your knees. You're going to roll onto the side. We're going to do another position to go a little deeper now that we brought in some opening here. So you're going to push yourself up and away. So continuing to stretch and to open the front of the body, because in order to strengthen the back of the body, in order to bring tone back into muscles that are hypertonic, that have been stretched too much in that forward position of all that we do, we want to open up the front, stretch the front so that we can actually bring more strength into the back. So we're going to come into another supported back bend. This time we're going to put our blanket across the heart area and stretch this part. You may need a blanket behind your head for some of you, depending. And then if you'd like to go a little bigger with this, you could do a tighter roll with your blanket. If this doesn't work, when you come down, if this is too intense, you could go back to this shape here. But showing you another way, and now that we brought in some stretch, let's do a little more here to stretch the front. So right behind the heart is where this goes. And keep the knees bent at first, a bigger stretch, a different stretch. So noticing what you notice here, especially if the head is resting on the ground, usually not as much of the upper back and neck. Starting to get a little bit deeper here in the least flexible part of the spine, which is right by the heart. Really opening up the lungs, and you might even feel a little bit more underneath the armpits. So going a little more lateral, side body here. Support your head appropriately, full bite if they're straight, and the arms wide. Stretching your body, especially the front of the body. Let's take 5 breaths like this. And then bending your legs. Come onto your side. Take your hand on the ground. You're going to push yourself up and away. We're going to do another supported front body stretch. We're going to do this one with the block. So take your blanket. Blanket at the top. Take your block. We're going to bring the block for this next movement. We're going to come back down onto our backs. So come to the side. Come all the way down onto your block. All the way down onto the floor. And then make sure that your blanket is not too strong of a fold. So pretty low fold here. And as we're opening up the front of the body, you want to be careful that you don't have an elevation of the head if you're elevating another part of the body. So try to be paying attention to where your head is. So not too much of a fold here. For some of you, maybe even 0 if that's appropriate for you. And then bring the block underneath your body. And then try to get the top edge of the pelvis to touch first. So there is a tilt in your pelvis. You might need to be on your tippy toes for this. And then let your pelvis rest on top of that block. Then take your arms out to the side. Slide the shoulder blades closer towards each other so you're not caving in your chest. And then let's try to take one leg at a time straight. So take one leg straight, go slow, close your eyes. Notice what you notice here, pretty strong stretch in the hip flexor muscle group. So now we're stretching the front body a little lower now. We're in our pelvis. You may experience some core stretching, and then we're stretching the hip flexors. And one of those is a quadricep. And then if you try to point your toes towards in the front, if you'd like to take your arms overhead, pushing your heart up towards the sky, if that's appropriate for you, try that. Breathe down to your belly. And then let's switch. So bend that leg. Close your eyes so you could feel your way into this. There's a lot of things that are happening subtly. And so if you move slowly, you'll be a little bit more in tune with your body. It's a way to keep yourself safe as you start to stretch. And stretching, we're stretching tissues. We're stretching ligaments, tendons, muscles, fascia. Nerves are getting stretched. Cells are getting stretched. Blood vessels are getting stretched. So if you close your eyes and you move with awareness, you'll know where to go safely. Point your toes if that's appropriate. Push your heart up towards the sky. Notice if both sides are the same. Do you feel the straight stretch the same place? And then take both legs straight if that's appropriate for you. If it's not, you could do one for a couple of breaths and then the other. And then if you're not feeling too much here, you could actually bring the block up to the next level. Now, only do that if that's appropriate for you. It is a thinner level. So when you do straighten legs, you've got to be careful. Make sure that it's appropriate for you. Don't do something just because you see it being done and you think you want to try it. Only do something if it's appropriate. This is definitely stretching a lot of the hip flexors, the core muscles, and it's not for everyone. Pushing your heart up towards the sky so that you bring that extension into the thoracic spine and you don't let the lumbar spine take all the brunt of that back bend. Breathe down to your belly so the breath will help to stretch tissues a little deeper. Take one more breath. And then you're going to bring yourself down to the first level if you went up. And if you're on the first level, stay there. Let's draw the knees into the chest and bring the legs up into the air. Let's stretch the top of the feet, point and flex. So you're elevated on the block, and if that's not appropriate for you, put your tushy on the floor. Point strongly. You're really strong so you feel the tops of your feet, the front of the shins stretch, and then flex. Point and flex. Now you're going to go in circles. Have your legs be a little bit wider here in one direction and in the other. And then bend your knees, put your feet on the floor. Let all this calibrate, let your body receive this. Push your feet into the floor, lift up, take the block out, bring the blanket back underneath your head. Continuing with the front of the body stretch, we're going to stretch the quadriceps. So if you come onto your side and you bend your legs, so your legs are bent, that bottom leg is going to be what helps to balance you. Bend the top leg close to your tushy. And maybe you could hold on top of your foot. Maybe you need to hold onto your socks or your shorts or something. So really depending on your flexibility in your body, reaching down, try to get the knee to come straight off of your body, that top leg, not necessarily the bottom. The top leg straight off of your body. Try to unbend the hip joint. Push your heart forward. Stretching the quadriceps, the front of the top thigh. And then we're going to go to the other side. So you're going to roll onto your other side, bending your knees. You take the top leg, you bend it so that the heel comes closer to the tushy. You may need to grab pants or socks. If you're able to hold on top of the foot, hold on top of the foot. Try to unbend that leg. You're pushing the kneecap away from you and trying to push the hip joint forward to unbend that hip joint. So where your leg attaches to the body, you're trying to straighten that. That's where the hip flexors are. Try to bring your heel to touch your tushy. Maybe you can, maybe not. Take one more breath. And then bring yourself back to center. Blanket is underneath your head. So we're going to use the strap. We're going to do a bridge pose. And when we use the strap with bridge, we're able to come up a little higher. And the thing about bridge, in one hand, it is a back bend. The muscles in the back of the body are going to be strengthened as you lift away from the ground, which is wonderful. But the other aspect of the bridge is that you get the opportunity to stretch the front of the body. And the more you can unbend your hip versus bending your hip, the more you're going to be stretching hip flexor muscles. And some of these, one of the psoas muscle attaches to the lumbar spine. So when you could use your arms like this, you could use your arms like this, and then we're going to have a strap on the legs. And when you push out with the strap, you'll see you'll get higher. And so a lot of people like this, having a strap around their legs for bridge. So there's the strength aspect of the back of the body with bridge, pushing your body away from the ground. The back of the body gets stronger. You push the bones into each other, so you get bone building stimulation for the back of the spine, which is really important for spinal health. And then when you have the strap there, you're pushing out on the side strongly. So you're firing up and strengthening your lateral chain muscles, which is important for stability, structure, alignment, and helping you manage the weight of the world on your shoulders throughout your life. And then pushing on the strap allows you to get a little higher because you're using the side muscles. You get to unbend your hip joint. And this is often an issue for people, not being able to go fully straight with the legs or the hips. So let's take a strap, and you're either going to loop it if you have the ability to loop it, or you're going to tie it. And even if you were using a hand towel as your prop, you see. So bring your feet up, take the strap through your legs. And when you put the strap on your legs, you don't want your legs to be wider than your body. So make sure that you have a pretty hip joint distance, which means that maybe you could get just a fist between your knees. That's a pretty good gauge. Maybe a little bit more than a fist, but not at all 2 fist length, because that would be too wide of a stance. Now, one thing I'd like to say is that you do not want a blanket behind your head, because you are going to come up higher, and you want the support of the upper spine. You don't want caving of your chest here. You want that strong back bend here. When you come up, the weight waterfalls to the upper back. It does not go into the head and neck. You should not have a straight body. You want a bent body like a rainbow. And if you were going to have a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, it would be right behind the upper body, not the head. The head is an extension to this posture. So really work to be safe in your bridge posture here. Moving side to side, slide the outside edge of the arms and the shoulder blades closer to the center, so you get narrow across the top. Walk your feet as close as you can get them to your body. Begin to push out on the strap when you do that. Then you're going to tilt your pelvis, flatten your low back, lift your head up, lengthen your neck, tuck your chin towards your chest. Exhale. And as you inhale, start to peel your spine up and away, one vertebra at a time. When you come to your heart, push your heart up and towards your face. So start to get a bend in the upper spine. You may need to walk yourself a little closer together, your shoulder blades, to get more narrow across the top. Push your arms into the floor. Feet are close to the body. And then push your knees away from you. Try to unbend your hips. Push out on the strap. Take 5 deep breaths here. When you finish your last breath, slowly closing your eyes, come down by placing one vertebra at a time onto the floor. Pay attention to your kneecaps, the ends of the knees. Bring yourself all the way down. Bring your Blanket behind your head, take a break. Hands are on the belly. So when we do this posture like this, you actually probably will get a deeper stretch in the front. Many people like this because you could come higher into the posture, which is always so interesting because our ego comes with us to the practice. We always want to do it better or more. It's just human nature. It's the way we are. But when we have the strap there and we're using the side body, you're going to get more length in your quadriceps. And so over the kneecaps, the tendinous part of the quadriceps, there's 4 pieces to that muscle. The tendons go over the kneecaps and that's where they attach. So when you lengthen that muscle, and especially if you unbend your hip, you go to a straight hip, you're on the tendinous part of the muscle. You're pulling on the bones that these muscles attach to. So you may feel a little more in your knees. I know that I do. I definitely feel the ends of my quadriceps as I lift higher and I'm able to straighten out my hips. And then also because we're activating the side body, that relaxes these muscles here. So you're going to feel that stretch. So I'd like to do one more of those for 5 breaths. If you prefer to not do that, you could take the strap off, bring your hands onto your belly and take 5 breaths to rest and to recalibrate. If you are going to do that, you're going to move the blanket away, rolling side to side to get as narrow as you can across the top. Arms are straight or bent, or maybe you try a different version this time. Walk the feet close to your body. Tilt your pelvis backwards. Try to flatten the low back into the ground. Squeeze the tushy if you'd like. Exhale. And then as you inhale, peel yourself up, pushing out on the strap. Go slow with thoughtfulness. And once you arrive to the top, begin your 5 breaths. When you finish that last breath, slowly bring yourself down, especially as you let go of the tension in the quads. Bring the blanket back underneath your head. So I'd like to go on to our bellies and do a little bit more back bending. I'd like to keep the strap here because being able to activate the lateral chain could be a little protective of the low back, activating more support muscles. So if you'd like to do that, you could keep the strap on. And if for any reason the strap doesn't feel comfortable for you, you could take the strap off and still do this. Let's roll on to our tummies. Coming onto your tummy, and then push your blanket away from you. Come onto your tummy. Adjust your strap if you need to. So for me, the buckle was near the side and that was a little annoying. And then be on your mat, flatten your toenails onto the mat and come up into Sphinx posture. So you have your elbows underneath your shoulders. Palms are pressing into the ground. Really make sure your elbows are underneath your shoulders. So look down, make sure the elbows are there and they're not wide. So what I'll notice often is wider stance. When you are wider, then you have the opportunity to collapse. And when your elbows are underneath your shoulders, you actually can't collapse. So be underneath your shoulders. Then pushing out on the strap, let the pinky toenails touch the ground. See if you could soften the pelvis and push the front pubis bone towards the ground. Then soften your belly, push your arms into the floor, Push your heart forward and then push away from the floor, keeping your head, your eyes could be closed, but your gaze is straight ahead. This is Sphinx. Pubis bone and push out, and that'll help to release tension in low back. Working on the structural aspects of your pelvis, of your trunk. Take one more breath. And then with length, bringing yourself down onto the ground, we're going to try to do seal posture. It'll work for some of you, maybe not all. Take your hands out to the side and pretty far forward so that your fingers are pretty much in line with the top of your head. Let your forehead touch the mat. Let your pinky toes touch. Push your pubis bone towards the ground. Push your hands into the floor. Exhale. Inhale, push down and lift your body up and away from the ground. Exhale to lower. Go slow. Push out on the strap. Push the pubis bone towards the ground. One more. Come up and stay up for a few breaths. See if you could feel the belly stretch. Let the belly be soft. Let the neck be long. Breathe down to your belly. That'll stretch you even more. And then bring yourself forward all the way down. Take your hands. Fold your hands. Put your forehead on top of your hands. Breathe down to your belly. We're going to take the strap off. So come onto your side, bend your knees, do what you need to take your strap off. Staying on your side, let's push your hand into the ground, pushing away from the ground. Bring yourself all the way up and then all the way. Continuing with strengthening our back and our trunk. Keeping ourselves nice and strong. Let's get your blanket. Clear your space. Take your strap off to the side. Clear your space. So come onto your blanket. Let's take our hands on the ground. You could take them a little far forward here and fingers could be out to the side. Flip your toes under, stretching the back of the body. Stretching the toes, stretching the sole of the foot. The plantar fascia, the Achilles tendon, the gastroc, which are the calf muscles. Maybe you'll feel it all the way up to your hamstrings. And then switch. Keep your head active. Don't let your head flop. So keep lifting your head against gravity in this position as you stretch your feet. Really bend the toes. Make sure the pinky toes touching. Push to the pinky toe mound of the top of the foot. If your wrists are starting to talk to you now, that's great. You're strengthening your wrists, a very precarious part of the body. So embrace that. And then bring yourself up for a second. Take the wrists, shake the wrists. So either up here, if that's okay, or if you could sit on your heels, sit on your heels. And if you want to take the block and put the block underneath your tushy, you could do that in a supported heroes. So choose what's appropriate for your body. Taking your wrists, roll your wrists around, open and close your fists, looking at your hands. For those of you that get arthritis in your hands, you feel any moving, throbbing pain in the hands, keeping these joints mobile can help to move deposits of arthritis, like that buildup aspect, that protective aspect in our body, and get it moving so it'll be metabolized and not take up residence in these joints. And that was something I learned in my training I thought was really profound in my yoga therapy training. And the head guy that was teaching it is a physician, a Western physician. He said that all the movement we do in the joints moves the arthritic deposits so they don't get the opportunity to stay there, create scar tissue, or harden. So if you see somebody that has a lot of arthritic involvement in their hands, you'll see like maybe some of the joints are bigger, like you can't get your ring off anymore at some point. So the more we mobilize these joints, we disperse the protection, oftentimes calcium, which leaves the bones to protect, and other minerals that eventually harden. And so keeping your joints mobile, really important, and stretched. Take your fingers and stretch the fingers here, so much so that you may feel this going down into your forearm. And then do that with the thumb, only to where it feels appropriate. So don't pull too much, pull appropriately. Fingers and thumb. And then do the same thing on the other side. I'm always amazed when I do this one because I feel that all the way down here. So for those that play pickleball, tennis, golf, tennis elbow and all of that, is because the muscles, what we're doing with our hand and our wrist, is eventually too much wear and tear on the tendon, at the end of those muscles and where they attach. Take your thumb, flip your thumb under. So got to keep these tissues mobile and limber. Take your hands forward. The backs of the hands are together. The thumbs are down, so my palms are facing outward on both sides. Take left wrist over right. Clasp your hands. Lower your shoulders. Slowly bring your hands toward you. You're rotating. You're adding a rotational force to the forearm bones. And right where they attach to the wrist, you're strengthening that part of your body. So bring yourself up and through. For some of you, it may be appropriate to go all the way to straight. For others, you may need to stay in that bent position. The ways to intensify this: push the hands away from you, or lower the arms, or spread the elbows, keeping the hands clasped. Take one more breath. And then you're going to slowly unwind. The left wrist was on top of the right wrist, so I want you to bring your awareness to your left wrist, your left thumb area, and notice all that pulling that just took place and how that feels for you. Let's do the same thing for the right wrist. So the backs of the hands are together, the thumbs are down, the palms are facing away from each other. Now you're going to bring right wrist over left wrist and clasp the hands. Lower the shoulders so you're not wearing shoulder earrings. You don't have a short neck. Lower the shoulders, long the neck. Bring the hands through, up, into whatever position you need to be in to create rotational force, now in the right wrist. Hands are away from the body. You may find lowering them does the trick, widening the elbows, coming all the way straight if that's appropriate. Take one more breath. And then go ahead and relax. Feel that. Notice where that tension was. Let's do a little here to stretch. Still considered really the front of the body here. So you're going to take, they're going to do, it's called Gomukhasana, cow face pose. You're going to take, let's do the left arm behind you. Left arm behind you, bringing the hand up towards the middle. Wherever you can, keep moving it to bring your hand up towards the middle. Then you take the right arm and you bring the right arm up towards the sky, palm facing backwards. Bend the elbow and try to bring your fingertips to touch. They may not, mine don't. But this is called Gurmukhasana, cow face. One elbow's up in the air, one elbow's back. So if you have the left hand back and the right arm up in the air, you may experience the front of the left shoulder stretching, the front of the top of the left arm. You may experience the right armpit area, the right tricep, the muscle behind the upper arm. Take one more breath. And come out of this slowly. We're going to stretch. So for me, most of the stretch is on that back arm here. And so the front of the body, the shoulder, that whole aspect of posture. Let's do the other side now. We're going to do the right side. For those of you that right-handed, it's a little bit tighter, the right side. So you bring the right arm underneath or back. You try to bring the fingers pointing straight up. You bring the left hand forward, up, bend the elbow, and bring the left hand behind your body. Trying to get the fingers towards each other. You could also hold on to a strap here and walk the hands up the strap to try to get them closer to each other. Maybe noticing there's a little more tightness on this body, especially in the front of that right shoulder. Deep breaths here in Gurmukhasana, cow face pose. Take one more breath. And then bring yourself out. Take your hands, shake your hands. Shoulders are forward, up, back, and down. This could all be done in a chair as well. So if sitting with knees bent or on a block is uncomfortable, you could crisscross your legs or come into a chair. I'd like to do one more posture like this for the wrists, a little challenging. It's a reverse prayer posture. So you take your hands, you bring your fingertips together, and then you flip your hands up your back into a reverse prayer posture, trying to get the soles of the hands, the heels of the hands towards touching. Let your pinkies rest up against your body, and then keep pushing your elbows back. And that's going to strengthen the front of the shoulder joint. Lift your heart. Let your pelvis be heavy. Feel the stretch here. You're adding rotational force to your arms. It's going to stretch all the way up to the shoulders. Try to get your hands as high up your back as you can. I'll tell you that a lot of people cannot do this. Even the 20-somethings I try to have do this. So this is really more a function of we're not stretching our wrists or our arms in this way often. So noticing what you notice. And then bring yourself up, bring yourself out. So I feel my fingers stretching that. I do feel that all the way up to the right side because I'm right-handed. So I feel that tension and that stretch in the whole front part of my upper shoulder area. So a little bit of different stuff today, but really to help you overall be a stronger human, have stronger bones and muscles all throughout your body so that you can manage the weight of the world on your shoulders that we all have to manage our whole lives. Let's come on to the fingers. Take your fingers and walk around on your fingertips, strengthening the fingers. You could go forward and backwards in a crawling position if you need to be maybe on the blanket the whole time, or around in circles, getting all of our joints to settle, realign, feeling that in the fingers right around now. And then bring yourself back to center. Again, mobilizing anything that's getting accumulated, stuck. All right. Let's do plank, any variation you'd like. I'm going to come into a wide plank now, taking my hands pretty wide. Take the legs behind me. 5 breaths if you can, 10 breaths if you'd like. Try to do 10 breaths here if you can. Pushing through the heels, pushing away from the floor, long spine. Really push away from the ground. So feel with that resistance as you push. Use your pushing muscles here. Long spine. Try to get as long as you can. Push away and get long. And then bring yourself down. Noticing the strength you may feel in the front of your body, not only just the core, but those hip flexor muscles, quadriceps, really getting yourself to be nice and strong. Then take a break. Capture your breath. Close your eyes. Breathe down to your pelvis. And then open your eyes. Let's flow through the hips, the knees, the spine, stretching and strengthening along our way. We're going to come through. So let's try this up dog position. Have your knees close together. Your arms are forward. Let your belly button come closer towards the ground as you bring weight into the hands. Press the fingertips into the ground. Keep pushing your pelvis towards the ground, opening up the front body. This is upward facing dog. If you could push your toes into the ground and lift your knees off, try that. And then bring your toes down. Start to bend the hip joint, bringing the low belly closer to the top thighs. Keep your head lifted and active here. Only go back as far as you can. Maybe you could bring your head all the way towards the ground. Go slow. Your spine is readjusting, stretching the front, stretching the back, stretching the underarms. Inhale slowly to bring yourself up. Keep your arms straight. Bring your pelvis closer to the ground. Wherever it gets to, that's perfect. As you exhale, bring your belly button closer towards your legs. Low belly closer towards the top thighs. That's your exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Feel the front of your body stretch. Your belly from below the ribs to the pubic bone. One more. Bring yourself back. Resting here. Either the head is on the floor. You could fold your hands, putting your forehead on top of your back of your hands, or get your block. Take one more breath. Bring your head up first. Let your head lead the way. So we're going to strengthen the erector muscle group, the part of you that lifts you up. And we're going to do this by bending and unbending the hip joint. Bring your block here in front of you. Sometimes doing this with a chair if you have a little bit more, if you need that. So the real bending should take place in the hips. This is where we should bend, and the spine should maintain its curves all the way down. The farther you get down, the more gravitational force that's here. The weaker the hips are, the tighter the low back is, the weaker your core is to maintain your pelvis. Then we start to bend our spine instead of our hips to bend down for things. So let's strengthen your ability to bend properly, to keep your pelvis in a stabilized position, to keep the spine in its neutral curves. So bring your block there if you need it. So we're going to do a little practice here where we warm up this joint, the hip joint. We lengthen and stretch the muscles that help to mobilize the body through that forward folded position that we are in every single day. So you could bring your hands right here where the hips are to feel yourself pressing into your hands. You could take your hands onto your waist, pushing your elbows towards each other. That'll help to maintain the integrity of the upper spine. Legs could be wide, or you could bring them hip distance. More challenging when they're hip distance. Wider stance might be a little bit more supportive for those that need it. If you're up for the challenge, bring your legs into a hip distance position. Keep your head active, moving through a couple of these. You exhale to fold. You inhale to lengthen. Exhale to fold. Inhale to lengthen. One more. And then bring yourself all the way up. Come to a position that's comfortable for you, bending the knees or sitting in a crisscross leg position, forward, up, back, and down. So today's practice is definitely a little bit more challenging in terms of bending or flexing the joints. And so stay within the place that you can move without compromising the next joint up. So in that case, it was hips that were bending. And if you don't bend properly, if you don't have the strength, the flexibility, or the structure, or the structural protection, then you're going to start bending other joints. And over time, that is not going to help you be the best manager of the weight of the world on your shoulders. So go slow, do what's appropriate for you. It may bring up some things for you where you are realizing that you might be tighter than you thought you were, or maybe not as strong or as good at managing proper joint flexion. And so instead of getting caught up in what you can't do, focusing on realizing how important this is for the rest of your life. Females, especially females with osteoporosis, but also men as well, because spinal wedge fractures are kind of the beginning of, I don't want to be so dire to say the end, but if you start to break your spine, if you start to fracture your bones because you're not managing the way you bend forward properly, that's what ends up happening. So a little bit more aware today, maybe noticing some things that you will be able to work on or with. And that's what's going to help us be the best at managing pressures and stresses of life. Let's take the block off to the side. We're going to come down on the ground again, lifting up against gravity, now getting into the low back and the upper back, and then the erector muscle group that is on the entire spine that helps to lift you up. That is a part of what does this. So you've got the front part here, you've got the hip flexors contracting to bend you forward, you've got the glutes lengthening to let you go forward, and then you've got the support of the erector muscle group that helps to maintain that nice alignment in your spine. So keep your blanket here. Let's take the blanket down to the bottom third of your mat so that you have space here for your head. And then walk your kneecaps all the way back to the back edge of your blanket. Let's go down really slow. Here's another challenge to see the strength in your upper body. And this can be a challenge for many, especially females. Take your hand, pointer fingers are forward. Let's bring the pelvis closer to the floor first. So the pelvis comes down, the belly button gets closer to the floor. Start to keep your head lifted. Start to bend your elbows, push the heels of the hands into the floor like crazy, loading up the triceps, the pushing muscles at the back of the upper arms and the chest muscles until you become all the way down. Move your pelvis back so your bones are supported, and then lift one foot up at a time, let the toenails touch. Take the arms out to the side, folding the hands, forehead on the back of the hands. Long spine here. Take a couple of breaths down to your belly. So let's slowly introduce some movement. Close your eyes so you can feel your back working. The muscles I want you to focus on are the muscles that are attached to the sacrum in the pelvis, and they go all the way up the sides of your spine. So in order to not let this be all low back, if you push the pubis bone into the floor, try to point your tailbone strongly down in between your heels. That'll help to tilt the pelvis, either bring it more to neutral or slight posterior tilt, lengthening and supporting the lower back area so that you can activate the upper back muscles. Forehead is touching your hands. Exhale. Inhale, push your hands into the ground, lift your body up, close your eyes, feel what's stretching and feel what's strengthening. Exhale to lower. Notice if both sides are equal. And then one more. Come up and stay up. Push your hands into the floor, hands into each other, elbows into the ground. Try to lift the upper nape of the neck up towards the sky. Push the pubis bone into the ground. Feel the tension develop as you're holding up your body against gravity. Don't let your head flop. One more breath. And then slowly, slowly bring yourself down. Let your forehead touch the ground. Take your hands alongside your body so that the palms are on the ground, the thumbs are away from you, the pinkies are towards you. Your hands are down around your waist. Slide the shoulder blades towards each other. Let the big toes touch. Forehead is touching the ground. Slide the shoulder blades towards each other. Push the pubis bone into the ground. Point the tailbone down in between the heels. Exhale. Push your hands into the ground and inhale to try to lift. Exhale to lower. Go slow. You're going to feel a lot more muscular action here, trying to lift the weight of your body away from the ground. You may not go that high. It's okay. Feel all those muscles in your trunk working. Nice, strong back. One more. You're going to come up and hold for a few breaths. Slide the shoulder blades towards each other. Point that tailbone down in between your heels. Push your pubis bone into the ground. Lift your head. Lift your body. Take one more breath. Bring yourself all the way down. Fold your hands, take your legs wide, bend your knees, back and forth, side to side. And then bring your legs down. Roll onto your side off of your blanket, and then fold your blanket either in half or in thirds. So you make a pretty big mound. And you're going to come back onto your blanket. Let your hip bones be on the blanket. The hip bones. Lengthen your legs away from you. Let your toes touch. Lift your knees up. And then come into Sphinx for a second so that you can lengthen your torso away. Bring yourself down onto the floor and turn your head to the left. Let your arms go down alongside your body. Palms are up. Breathe down to your low back. You could take your legs a little wider here. Breathe to your low back. We're stretching that low back area. Move on your blanket to where you feel a good stretch for the low back, right by the hip bones, closer then towards the belly button. So in between hip bones and belly button. One more breath. And then tuck your chin towards your chest, lift your head up, turn your head in the other direction, stretching the upper back and neck area. Let your head rest, breathe down to your belly. Take one more breath. Rolling on your side off your blanket. Pushing your hand into the floor, bringing yourself up. Checking in here to see how you're feeling. Close your eyes, noticing what you're noticing. A lot of different body positions, a lot of movement of fluids in the body, fluids in the ears. And then open your eyes. Let's allow the integration of everything practiced today. Everything for the nervous system, for the musculoskeletal system, and even at the level of your chemistry. Let's let all of that settle, all the dust. So prepare yourself for the Shavasana of choice. So bring yourself into whatever your body is telling you it needs. You can bring your knees into your chest or come straight into Shavasana if your body feels ready. Bring your awareness to your breath. Begin to deepen your breath. Wiggle your fingers, your toes, your ankles, your wrists. Bending the knees, drawing the knees into the chest. Draw them in deeply if you can. Let your whole low back and mid back press into the ground as you rock side to side. Bring your head up between your legs. Stretch the upper back and neck. And then bring yourself onto your side. Take your hand on the ground as you push yourself up and away from the floor. Bring your hands together. Press your heart to your thumbs to your heart. Long spine, long neck. Closing the practice with a humming sound, letting everything settle with the sound of your voice. Keep the mouth closed. Exhale. Inhale. Closing the practice with gratitude, bowing, thank you, namaste, thank you. Every day we get older, and it's up to us to preserve the package we live in, to minimize pain and discomfort, to manage stress and the weight of the world, whatever that is, at different stages of our lives. Today's practice definitely focused a lot on opening and lengthening the front and strengthening the back of the body for that very reason, to allow us to be strong and be able to handle physical and mental, emotional, and anything else that comes our way a little bit better with a stronger body and mind. All right, how was that for you all? You're welcome, Michael. You're welcome, Joanne. You're welcome, Dave. I was thinking about you today, Dave, because I did go on the knees a lot. And I know that's kind of challenging for you. So I thought, oh, how is Dave doing with this? Because I kept going onto the knees for those of you that can't bend your knees a lot. And I think you can't, Dave, if I remember. I know some of the stuff. It's been like 2.5 years. But anyway, you know, the part in between, I could sit on my knees, which it feels great, but I know that not everybody can. You're welcome, Stevie. Yeah, good. You're welcome, Carolyn. Yeah, but, you know, it's so important. And I want us to learn how to be functional and to understand what we need to focus on so that we can maintain ourselves forever. That's important. So thank you for joining me. All right. Have a beautiful rest of your day. And until we meet again, I bid you adieu. And remember, until we meet again, when all this stuff happens, sing Que Sera, Sera. Let go of that stuff. All right. So, because it pushes down on, you know, the weight of the world on our shoulders. All right. Bye, everyone.